Welcome back to the shop here. As you can see, we're midway through our disassembly here. I got the engine out, I got the engine covers off so I can start some inspection and replacement of parts. As you can see, here's the clutch cover here. Needs cleaned up. And, you know, it looks like I got a mess going here. I got parts and I got tools scattered everywhere. You know, this is the reality of doing something like this, especially in your own garage here. You know, you're just eager to get going here. And believe me, there is a method to the madness here. But we got a lot to do. Still got some things to remove and tear down because we're going to get to the forks. We're going to go deeper into the engine here and replace and maybe modify a few things. And we got the carburetor to deal with, to repair. Got some, you know, I have two of everything because I have two of these F9s. If you saw Barn Fresh episode 1, you saw me pull two other bikes out with the one that I restored to factory, the F5, that you can see behind me here. So I have two of everything. So I'm going to set one up to be kind of back to factory specs, kind of, engine-wise. And then I'm going to, since I got two cylinders and things, I am going to cut the rotary valve disc and also probably do some porting. And so I can have two different configurations. And what I'm going to show you next is I'm going to show you some of the parts that I've already got ready for this bike. And we're going to go through that and show you what I've got and kind of where this project is going to go. Over here on the workbench here, I got some of the parts that I'm going to use laid out here, and I thought I'd kind of go through them. A lot of this is just normal replacement stuff. Some of it is still available from the OEM because a lot of the part numbers crossed to many bikes through many years. Some of it is new old stock that's obsolete, but I was able to find it. And then some things I just had laying around. So I'll just kind of start over here. Obviously, you saw this this kind of stuff in the original series. You know, because I have two bikes, I have two ignition control modules, which those are kind of hard to find, especially as new old stock. Same with ignition coils and everything, which all those test good. The other thing is, and this is out of the bike I'm currently working on. This is the actual. It has the lighting and then the exciter and signal coils here. And you know, it's a little rusty because there was actually water laying in here. I'll probably soak this in some rust dissolving compound, the Evapo-Rust, because it won't harm any of the electrics here. But I already tested this per the manual, and you saw how to do that in the other series. And this is actually tests good, so when I put this back together, I should have no trouble getting spark. So just showing you that there. Obviously, this is an aftermarket one, but I need another gasket kit because I'm going to need, you know, the gaskets. I got a brand new set of piston rings that are oversized, and those are new old stock. And actually, I have a new old stock oversized piston here. We got a couple other. These are still factory stock items, as you can kind of see by the differences in the labels. Mainly just seals, like this is the kick shaft seal. This is a shift shaft seal, which requires two of them because you have one on either side of the engine on or transmission on this bike for right or left side shifting. Got a you know, ignition side or right or left side crank seal because I'm going to replace that. Here's the right side or the rotary valve cover crank seal because I'm going to have it off. I'm going to replace that, even though the one that's in it looks decent. You know, it's been sitting a while, and I would hate to burn up a new piston just because of some fairly easily replaced seals. And then of course these other ones, it's just so I don't have a leaker on the ground there. Brand new. This is still available from the factory. That's the little end bearing. In front of me, I have both cylinders off each bike. I've cleaned this, or begun to clean this one up. Took the exhaust off. This is probably the one I'll keep as a stock configuration. This is one that I will probably do some porting on. Either I'll send it out or I'll try doing it myself. I haven't decided yet on that, honestly. But both of these here, and I have some numbers I've written on here, identify which bike they came from just for posterity, and then also what the specs are. Other things that are a little more performance related are one of the bikes actually came with period aftermarket aluminum foot pegs, so they're a heck of a lot lighter than the stalkers. So I'm going to, and they're not really that beat up. They got a little bit of wear on them, but that gives it a little bit of character. But I'm going to use those. And another thing that actually came off of one of the bikes that the guy must have set up for racing is this is the countershaft cover, which also houses the that's what this is in here. It actually houses what actuates the clutch. Well, as you can see, the previous owners did kind of a half-assed job, but he kind of notched this out. And I'm thinking not so much for weight savings, although it does take off some weight because there's a lot of casting that was removed here, but still retained some of the rigidity here. So for this mount over here, which is required, I can't just lop that off because there is some pressure here from the clutch actuating because your clutch cable goes in here. Anyways, probably what he did this for is because in a muddy situation, the mud balls up in here, and while this would let the mud fall out or after a race or a ride, you could at least get in there with a screwdriver and kind of pry it out of there, as well as actually has a period correct what we know now is a case saver, which originally didn't come on these bikes. So that's kind of nice, and that also helps you be able to clean it out because mud can pack around in there as well. So actually that's kind of a neat deal that the previous owner did, and I'm going to just kind of improve on it, make the cut or what he cut a little bit nicer like this. I'm going to square it off, make it look like it kind of was going to be factory. They kind of a hack job. Well, I want to show you one other part that I'm going to replace on this bike. Here's the stock expansion chamber or muffler for the F9, and this thing is heavy. Now I weighed this thing, and this thing weighs a whopping 14.8 pounds, almost 15 pounds right here, and it feels like it. It's heavy. And like I said, when you saw the first episode here, you also saw that I do have a fairly rare aftermarket expansion chamber here, and I have confirmed this is a Bassani, and this is custom built for the F9. It's supposedly a pretty good pipe, one of the quieter ones out there. It does have kind of a packing insert in here, and but it's supposed to broaden the power range, maybe give a little bit extra higher RPM power without losing your low end because of the rotary valve. And but I weighed this thing, and this thing's light. This thing weighs it weighs like 7.8 pounds. Call it 8 pounds. And so that's a significant weight savings right there. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest things outside of the fenders, which we'll get to that in another episode, that's going to drastically reduce the weight of this bike and make it handle a heck of a lot better. Especially because, like on these older bikes, the exhaust sit up high, so a lot of your weight is up high. So the less weight you can have up high lowers the center of gravity and helps things like the shocks and everything work a lot better. So this is one of the major things, and that I think is pretty neat, that I'm going to have a period correct aftermarket pipe to put on this bike. But as you can see here, here's a handful of parts that I'm going to use to refurbish this bike. And like I said, it's kind of nice I have two bikes because I can kind of play around with some performance aspects with one, and then keep the other for if this doesn't work out. I can kind of keep it more of a stock configuration. But still, we're going to do some little weight savings things, and to make this bike handle or run as good as it can.